and welcome back to episode 19 of the Roll the Tape Sports Podcast. I'm Jacksen White alongside
Aidan McNally
and Jalen McKissick.
So today we're going to be talking about March Madness. I believe we're in the round of 16, the Sweet 16. We're going to be talking about that. Obviously, we made a bracket last episode, and our champion did not win, but we're going to talk about that later. Also, we're going to be talking about UConn versus the NBA. So obviously, these type of conversations have happened all the time. A college team versus an NBA team. Will they win? Well, we're going to talk about it with UConn this time whenever we get to that.
And for the NFL, we have a Roll the Tape NFL mock draft special. We're going to rotate each pick and mock draft the upcoming 2024 NFL draft.
And for our ending segment, we have our start bench cut. And make sure to follow us on our socials at Roll the Tape Sports for daily videos.
And now let's roll the tape. Let's get right into it. March Madness has been underway this past week, and, well, it's been very interesting to say the least. Do you guys have any perfect brackets left?
Not even close.
I don't think anyone does. Shout out Oakland. But so let's go look at the Roll the Tape podcast bracket here. And right now we rank, this is pretty solid.
Is it?
Top 10 million in the world.
Wow.
That's definitely top something.
Yep.
That's
Top 10
better than 12
million in the world. But, yeah, we have 420 points.
Wow.
What's the percentage?
That's funny. A percentage is 60%. So
Hey.
we do technically have a better percentage in this bracket than Stephen Curry does shooting threes. So let's go back. And obviously our champion, the team we picked to win it all, New Mexico, the Lobos, sadly will not be representing us in the championship game.
I was
or
very
the round of
confident.
32.
I was very confident.
I
in
was
that
not. I gave them the first two rounds, and after that, I was just like, are you guys
I thought
serious?
they'd win one. I mean, come on. You're called the Lobos and you can't get one win? Like, all right. Well, let's go back and just look at kind of this bracket. We're not going to talk about every game, but we're going to talk about the games we picked wrong. And then we'll get to the Sweet 16. So starting with the round of 64, the first game we got wrong, we picked FAU to advance over Northwestern. And, well, the Owls, they
let us down.
They let us down. We also picked Auburn to beat Yale. And, well, this wasn't crazy. Yale won. Yale is a champion in the NCAA Tournament. Yale, that school for smart people, won. Denise, we did pick them.
Duquesne.
Duquesne, we picked them.
Good upset.
And we won. They beat BYU.
It's a great upset.
We also picked Drake to beat Washington State, the 7 versus the 10, and we were wrong.
It was not God's plan.
No. We also picked St. Mary to beat Grand Canyon. Hey, the 5 and 12 always seems to – the 12 is in the advantage this year. Grand Canyon beat St. Mary's by 9 there. Alabama had 109 points. They won, but it's kind of crazy. Sadly, our Lobos, I don't know why we picked 11 seed to go all the way. I kind of felt confident for some reason after the podcast. Well, they got smacked by Clemson by over 20. Shout out the Lobos. Dayton beat Nevada in a close game, 63-60. We picked Nevada to win that one, and we picked Nebraska to beat Texas A&M as well. Hey, James Madison beat Wisconsin. We picked them. Hey, another 12 beating a 5. And then looking through it, obviously we picked Kentucky to beat Oakland. Oakland won. And other than that, I mean, we weren't that bad. We did pick McNeese to win, and McNeese did not win.
No, they did not.
Oregon beat South Carolina. The Gamecocks are gone. So all the Cocks in this tournament are gone.
No.
But that's basically it. So now we go to the round of 32. Okay, and so now we have an opportunity to look at teams we picked. And, I mean, we look at up top, and we picked UConn and San Diego State to move on. We were right. We picked Illinois to move on, yeah. We did not pick Iowa State to move on. We picked Drake for some reason. So, yeah, but Iowa State did move on.
Shout out Tyrese Halliburton.
All right. We did pick Clemson to move on. Well, no, we didn't. We picked the Lobos to move on, where Clemson did. Shout out them.
Dang, we suck.
Yeah, we did
Hey,
pick.
that's a lot of right picks that he's saying right
I
now.
just want to say for the record, I had New Mexico State going out in like the Sweet 16 at least. Every other pick after that, I just got outvoted by you guys.
Your name is on this podcast.
I guess so.
But we picked as a podcast the Lobos.
Yeah,
So
as a
Roll the
podcast,
Tape
as a collective.
As a Jalen and Jacksen committee, you guys picked New Mexico State to win it all.
Okay, he picked him too. He just is trying to backtrack here. Sadly,
Go back and watch the last episode. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, you should do that. Leave a like. So Oakland did lose to NC State. I don't know what their mascot is. What is the Oakland? The Oakland.
I think they're the
Bears.
The Bears, yeah.
The Bears.
Golden Bears, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of lame. Good they lost. NC State moving on.
Good they lost.
Hey, we picked Colorado, who was coming in as a first four in, first four out type of game. We picked them to win, and they did. So, shout out Florida. Moving along, Gonzaga destroyed Kansas.
Absolutely destroyed Kansas.
We picked the Gamecocks to win down here, and Creighton is moving on. So let's go to the Sweet 16 and just kind of take a little glimpse at it. We look at the top of the bracket in the East bracket here. UConn versus San Diego State. Obviously, we picked UConn to win, so we'll see what happens. And then we go down here, and for some reason we picked Drake to win that one, and they won't be doing that. So Iowa State versus Illinois. I'll let you guys go ahead and just make a little prediction.
I'm going Illinois.
I'm going Illinois. Big Ten chance.
Iowa State. Shout out Tyrese Halliburton.
Shout out Tyrese Halliburton.
They're the two. We'll see. Obviously, we're not taking back our picks. We still have Drake coming out of that one on our bracket, but sadly, in reality, it's not going to happen. We had North Carolina moving on in the West bracket, and then down here we had our Lobos bracket, where they did not do that. So Arizona versus Clemson. Who you guys got?
Zona.
I'm
going to take Arizona as well. And then we did pick the South bracket correct. We picked Houston and Marquette to come out of there. And they're both teams that are there. Obviously, NC State, 11 seed, still in the tournament, the lowest seed there, and Duke taking on Houston. So you guys still taking Houston and Marquette to win those games,
yeah.
I assume.
Yeah.
So then going down here, for some reason, did we have McNeese beating Purdue?
Did we?
Oh,
I think we might have.
we did have McNeese beating Purdue.
Honestly, it wouldn't have been that far-fetched to assume.
Wait, did we? Let me see. I'm trying to see.
I don't know. Considering
McNeese. Wow, we did.
We did? Hey.
Why did we have McNeese?
Because
going
Purdue
to
has
the
a history of
Elite
losing to double-digit seeds.
Yeah. Who you guys got? Purdue versus Gonzaga.
I'm taking Gonzaga.
I'll take Purdue.
Wow. I'll take Purdue
I'll
as well.
take Purdue.
And then finally, we did pick Tennessee and Creighton, and we're right about that. Hey, honestly, we're not that wrong.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, obviously, in the first round of 64, but hey, we're pretty close here.
I think the only thing messing up our bracket is New Mexico State going all the way.
Yeah,
and
honestly, I
McNeese
think
going
we'd
to the
be in
Elite
the
Eight.
top million if we didn't have them, the Lobos,
Probably.
going. But hey, it's not better. I only did 2 brackets. My other bracket is really bad.
Mine's
we're
awful.
top 16 million in the world. So
One of my brackets is sitting at 88%. The only thing wrong with is I picked Kentucky to win the whole thing, and they lost first round. So
dang, that's crazy. My mom has a bracket in here that has a 98% win percentage.
Hey,
What is going
you say
on?
98?
Yes.
Whoa. She was picking random teams. She was picking based off color.
Maybe she's
Florida.
right. Maybe she knows something we don't.
Maybe she does.
I'm looking at her bracket to see if there's anything crazy she picked here. Yeah, we're going a little off topic, but we could do that. It's my show. Yeah, just kind of looking at it. Obviously, there's not much to talk about when you've already made a bracket. It's not like you can go back and change yours. So,
Yeah.
I'm looking at here. I don't think she just kind of picked the bigger seed every time. She somehow picked Oakland and NC State being here.
Maybe she's like Bears.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It's pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive, actually.
Picking Oakland is insane. Hey, shout out. But now moving along now to a little bit of, well, wait, when's the Final Four going to happen? Is that next weekend?
No. The
Final
Final Four
Four.
is not until April 6th.
6th.
Yeah.
So next weekend.
Next
Is it this
the weekend.
weekend?
No, the weekend after. Right?
So in 2 weekends.
2
Not
weekends.
this weekend, the next. The following.
Yeah, the one after. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So wait, is the Elite 8 also?
The Elite 8, no, the Sweet
Going-
16 is this weekend.
I believe the Elite 8 should be this weekend as well.
The Elite 8 is this weekend.
Yes.
But the Sweet 16 starts Thursday.
Ah, makes sense. Well, yeah. I guess we'll update on that and then go into our Final Four picks. But
Yeah.
moving along now to UConn. UConn is the consistent. They just won a championship, looking to win back-to-back and be a dynasty. All right? They're the number 1 seed in the NCAA Tournament, and it looks like no one's going to beat them. Well, now it's time people are going to start saying, well, UConn versus the NBA, as people like to say. Well, UConn, could they go ahead and beat a team in Washington like the Washington Wizards? Could UConn go ahead and beat the Detroit Pistons? Could they go ahead and beat the San Antonio Spurs? Those are the bottom half teams in the NBA. Could UConn, if, let's say it worked like that, go in and beat an NBA team? Tell me why or why not.
Well, first of all, there have been many things that have been said of them making a play-in. And I absolutely disagree with that. I mean, here's how I always look at it. you have, and this could be for any team. So right now, let's just say the Washington Wizards, they're probably the consensus number one worst team in the league. They have 15 NBA quality players on their team. They have 15 players that have made it to the NBA. UConn this year probably they have 2 lottery picks in Stephon Castle and Donovan Clingan, and then outside of that, they might have a second-round pick, and that's it. So they have 3, at most, NBA quality players. And I hate this debate because it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard is, oh, UConn, yeah, they could go make the play-in seed. Not only would they not make the play-in seed, I think they would go 0-82 in an NBA season, no matter what.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I could see that. I mean, you look at it, and obviously every college team has 1 to 2 NBA players, maybe. Yeah. Draft prospects, guys who could go in the first to second round of the NBA draft. Well, the Washington Wizards have a roster of 15 guys that are, not necessarily 15 of them, but at least 10 of them are proven NBA guys who will be in an NBA rotation for years to come. And there's a few players on that team that are really solid. I think Kyle Kuzma alone could probably outscore UConn.
Oh, yeah.
If he had the whole Wizards team with him.
I mean, yeah.
Honestly, because, he's
And you look at it, too,
in.
like the Wizards, the Pistons, the Pistons.
They're bad, but they're nowhere near
The Pistons have beat teams like, they've competed with the Celtics, who are obviously the best basketball team in the world right now. They've competed with them. They were up 18 on them at halftime. Obviously, they choked. But just being up on the Celtics at one point shows that, it's not like the Wizards shouldn't be in the NBA. They're here for a reason. Obviously their roster isn't great. They probably have the worst roster in the league. But like I said earlier, they have 10 guys that have proven themselves that they can be in the NBA, 10 guys that have gotten drafted, that have played consistent minutes in the NBA, and UConn has 3 at max. So I think it's max.
Honestly,
max.
I think if you put UConn up against any of those bad NBA teams' bench players, they still lose. You take the stars out the equation. You take Kate Cunningham.
Who's the backup point guard for the Wizards?
I don't know. Bilal Coulibaly, he's a shooting guard. But you put that UConn team against the bench mob of any of those bad NBA teams, they still lose by 30.
Yeah.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
I agree.
You take the stars off. Well, there's no star on the Wizards, but you take the stars off of some of the bad teams in the league, they still win by 30, 40 against the UConn team.
Yeah.
Just because of the experience alone.
Yeah. I think experience has a big thing to do with it. A lot of those players on those bad teams have faced the adversity to get to the NBA.
Skill, too, skill-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Skill-wise, coaching standpoint, too. Obviously, these are NBA coaches for a reason, and obviously these are college coaches for a reason.
Well, I think coaching in the NBA and college is almost necessarily completely different. I think a lot of coaching in college is not necessarily how you game plan, it's how you recruit. I think recruiting is the most important thing when it comes to being a college coach.
Look at Calipari.
He can recruit good guys, but he likes to go recruit guys that are going to leave after 1 year.
Or better example, more current example, look at Mike Woodson. He can recruit. He can recruit good. He's a great recruiter, but can he win games? No.
Is he a great recruiter?
He's had
great players.
He almost got a 5-star. He left, but hey, he was almost there.
He's a really good recruiter.
He's a good recruiter for
Woodson,
IU.
I am an IU fan, and calling Mike Woodson a great recruiter is insane.
Name
me one player since he has came here that he has recruited that is so phenomenal.
Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Did he recruit him? No.
Yes.
He just came in. This year.
But he came there because of Mike Woodson.
Hood-Schifino, no, it was already declared to go to IU prior to the hiring, I'm pretty sure.
I thought he came there because of Mike Woodson.
Sure. No.
Well, but he didn't leave once Mike Woodson got there. So
he was
Mike
only
Woodson
there for a year.
But Mike Woodson was there when he was there. So he had to have been doing something, right? It's not like if he didn't like Mike Woodson or Mike Woodson wasn't a good recruiter.
So what's he going to do? Enter the transfer portal like a weekend?
He can not.
Because if he left, he would be ineligible for the whole year, and his plan was to be a one and done.
But Mike Woodson got hired before the season started, so Hood-Schifino could have left before the season started, before the college year started.
Well,
once Mike Woodson got hired.
Woodson has not done any recruiting at all. IU's terrible.
IU's terrible because he's not that good of a coach.
I think he's all right as a coach. He did all right in the NBA.
But it's not like IU's going to get top-level prospects every year because it's IU. Why would they go to IU?
IU should get more top-level prospects than smaller schools, but they don't. There's an issue there. I
But
don't know
you
what-
go to a
IU is
smaller
like-
level school because you have more opportunity you have more opportunity to prosper at a smaller level school instead of
Well, your
another
point
school
is that
you're
Mike Woodson
comparing.
is a good recruiter.
exactly.
How? I mean, your example still does not prove that he's a good recruiter.
How long has Mike Woodson
You
been the
have
head coach?
yet in 2 years, this year and last.
Okay, so he has Jalen Hood-Schifino.
I believe it's this and last. No, it's been 3 years.
He recruited Khalil Ware from
3.
Oregon.
Well, you might have been right about Hood Casino, but that's it. And obviously,
Still a
Ware,
5-star. Still a 5-star that he brought in to do good things. They competed. They won
I would
a game in the
consider someone
tournament.
a
They
good
swept Purdue. They swept a Purdue
they
team
swept
that was
Purdue
the 1
from
seed.
because of Trace Jackson Davis,
That's
the guy
not-
who was
That's not true. Jalen Hood-Schifino dropped 34 points at Mackey.
yeah.
They won that game because of Jalen Hood-Schifino, the player that Mike Woodson recruited.
This is crazy.
And obviously, recruiting players, it's not like it's individual. Like what I mean by that, it's like recruiting Jalen Hood-Schifino is great, but they didn't recruit him just because it's him individually. They recruited him to pair up with Trace Jackson Davis. That's good recruiting. To recruit players, to bring players in.
Good
Like, look at-
recruiting wins.
look at
Big
Lance
Ten
Jones.
championships. Good recruiting makes the tournament. Good recruiting.
Not
beats-
always. Not always.
What do you mean? Not always. Good recruiting leads to good players. IU doesn't have good players.
I'm
Okay,
saying you say
Kentucky
it leads
wasn't
to
in the
winning.
tournament. Kentucky wasn't in the tournament
Like 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Now they have been in the past 2 years. Yeah, they haven't done anything, but just because you're bad doesn't mean
2
you're-
years ago, Kentucky got beat as a 2 seed versus the Peacocks.
That was a year ago.
It was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years
It
ago
was
in the
my
Elite
son.
Eight.
So 3
But
years
they
ago.
got there to the Elite Eight. But 3 years ago, the Tyrese Maxey year, they
No,
didn't.
that was 2020.
No, that was 2020.
3 years
The
ago
year
was Jacob
after that,
Toppin.
they had nobody on their team, and they were bad. But the next year, they got good players. So you don't have to be a good team to be good at recruiting. Like I said, recruiting is all pairing tendencies of players with other players. Like
And yeah,
Jalen
and that
Hood-Schifino with Trace
leads
Jackson
to
Davis.
wins.
And it did for IU that year.
No.
Yes.
They won a few things. Did they win anything though? They won a March Madness game. Hoo-hoo. They won a March Madness game and they beat Purdue twice. What did they do in the Big Ten tournament? Did they win the Big Ten? No. Did they win the Big Ten tournament? No.
Yeah, that's what coaching though. We're not talking about coaching. We're talking about recruiting.
Recruiting is winning. It just
But recruiting doesn't always lead to winning. Like not always. So there's been countless teams
I think if
in
you're a
college
good recruiter,
basketball
you win.
that have had good teams and haven't won.
Okay, then
I-
good recruiter, you win. A perfect example, Calipari.
I mean, just the game of college basketball right now is completely different than what it was just 10 years ago.
I agree. I completely
Because the
agree.
game of basketball now, it's not necessarily about going out and getting all these NBA type of prospects. That's why in the tournament you see more upsets than you used to do. Because it's not now about the top NBA prospects, it's about the teams that build guys for 4 seasons long. The teams that do better in these tournaments are teams that build players through freshman year to senior year. You don't see the players and the teams that have these NBA players win anymore because of the thing. It's just changed.
I agree, but
So Calipari right now, I don't think he's doing a good job recruiting. He's not building a good thing over there in Kentucky because all he does is go focus on guys who will be there for 1 year, and he's not building players to be there for long term. Of course, he probably has a few. I don't know too much about Duke, but I'm just from someone who doesn't know everything about college basketball. It's in my look on it. And I know, Mike
But
Woodson's
that's
a
not
good
that's not
recruiter.
his fault that he gets players that are one and dones. I mean, he goes
What do you
against the
mean
best
it's not
players.
his fault.
I would say
he
it's his
is
fault,
the
but
guy. He is the guy that's going out and
He
getting
goes
these
and gets the best
players.
players. If the player does good at that season in college basketball and leaves, that's not his fault.
Yeah, but he's going at these players that he sure as hell knows will.
So
leave
you don't
after a
want
year.
you don't want him to go get 5 stars, 4 stars.
No, I want to go get a guy that's going to be around for 4 years. Yeah,
But then that leads to not winning. You go get a guy that's a 4-star. Then what are you gonna do his freshman year?
Have you watched a game of college basketball this year? Who has
I'm-
been?
I'm talking about
team
the
that will
first
win the
year.
national
I'm talking about the
championship
first
will be a
year.
team. Yep. Let's go get 15 NBA guys, and I get you're going to go beat by Oakland.
I mean, I just said that Calipari wasn't the greatest coach. So
but
obviously,
he's
you
a
compare-
great
you-
recruiter.
He's a great recruiter, and that's led to
Kentucky's recruiting class this year was insane.
And that led to
I mean,
winning.
when it comes to
Just not in the
bringing
tournament.
NBA quality talent, yes, he is phenomenal. But recruiting means one thing in college basketball, and that means winning. You're a good recruiter whenever you can win. You're a good recruiter whenever players mold. And whenever players mold, what do? They win. It doesn't matter if I could go get 15 guys on a college team, but if you don't win nothing, it doesn't matter. You're not a good recruiter. Yeah, you might have NBA talent, but
Okay,
Devin
so-
Booker came
so
off the
hold
bench.
on.
No one knew he'd be a
Okay,
good NBA
so
player.
2018, 2019 Duke is the recruiter that recruited Zion, R.J. Barrett, and
Cam
Cam
Reddish.
Reddish a bad recruiter.
I'm not saying he's a bad recruiter. And what do you mean? In 2019 didn't they go to like the Elite Eight?
They got into the Elite Eight or Sweet 16 and then lost to Michigan State.
I'm not saying he's a bad recruiter, but it's just when it comes down
So
to
why is it different for UK and Calipari if he got DJ Wagner, Rob Dillingham? I'm not saying any of those players are on
that's
RJ
why
and-
I'm just giving a reason that's why they're not winning. They're not winning is because they're not developing players throughout years. They're going out and they're recruiting guys that, they're extremely talented, but they're not going to stay there for 4 years, and that means you can't build a team like that.
But you want the best players, though.
Yes.
That's what you want.
You want the best players in the NBA.
The best
In
players give you
college,
the
you
best
don't-
chance to win.
No, no. It just
I'm kind of like in the middle between
in
both
the
you
current-
guys
Because
right now.
I understand what you're saying. You want to build guys for 4 years. But sometimes you want that 4 or 5 star
And
that
even-
can lead your team.
And even, whenever we saw Duke get those top guys, you go get the Zion Williamson, the R.J. Barrett, and who else was on that team? I forget his
Cam
name.
Cam Reddish.
Cam Reddish, he's a bum now. And you go out and get them. Tell me, who did they lose to in the March Madness tournament?
Michigan
Michigan
State.
State.
Michigan State. And what did that Michigan State team consist of that year? A lot of guys who have been there for a few years. And that's why a lot of teams, and my point is, the teams that go get these NBA prospects now don't win anymore in March Madness. They used to, but they don't win anymore. The teams that win now in March Madness are the teams that don't necessarily have too many NBA prospects. Of course, if you have some, like UConn, they have 2 guys who, maybe 3, that could go to the league. But they don't have the Zion Williamson on their team. They don't have the superstars.
I agree, but in the sake of just recruiting, I agree with you that like you need to build. It's all about experience and college experience if you want to win in the March Madness tournament. But if you get a recruiting class like a class of Zion, RJ, and Cam Reddish, that's good recruiting.
I mean, you got all those guys, but I mean, and that is good recruiting. You got the top guys in the nation. That's your goal.
Yeah.
Is to do that. But I'm just talking about when it comes to winning right now and the themes, how it is.
It's scheme fits and experience.
Those top guys don't necessarily lead to wins in college basketball anymore. They're the ticket sellers. They're going to go pro. They'll do good things in the NBA. But the game of college basketball right now is for the players who are around for years. It's not for the players of the one and done. The one and done is phasing out, and that's why I bet in the next 5 years NBA will bring back going to high school after going to the NBA after high school, because the college game is doing nothing for those one and done players.
Well, I don't know, because they did just get rid of the G League Ignite, which was high school, which basically was the NBA after high school.
Yeah.
They did just get rid of that.
So that could also be a telling sign that they're going to do that.
You think you're just going to let them come straight out of high school?
I mean, why not?
I mean, I think that was basically the thing with the G League Ignite, was basically just like let them get NBA
It's
competition.
like a
I know,
segue
but-
into the NBA.
I mean, you
almost.
still get that 1 year that you
but-
can't go, but
Well,
I mean,
since they stopped doing the G League Ignite, that means there's something coming. And I would assume, and I mean, everything I've read is that they will eventually, you don't have to go one and done. I think it's going to be 2.
I think another big thing is the OTE league, like how Amin and Asar Thompson last year went from the OTE league straight to the NBA
Yeah, it's
without
just
college experience.
It's just there's a lot of guys that these NBA type-esque players, they're not going and doing that college experience anymore because it doesn't gain anything for them. They're going to be one and done. So it's not like you're going to go to a college and attempt to build something whenever you're going to be there for 1 year. So you might as well do what the Thompson brothers did. Obviously, what you said that's now gone, the Ignite. I did not know it was gone.
yeah, it's gone.
Is it like
It's-
gone?
It's for at least next year. I don't know if they ever bring it back, but it's gone next year.
Why?
I never really read into it. I just saw that it was gone.
Yeah.
Because I thought that, because obviously Scoot Henderson was
I
kind of the
think
guy.
there's-
who
Scoot
kinda
Henderson,
made it big.
Jalen Green.
Jalen Green was over there.
I think they were talking about. I think it was something about like stunting the growth of athletes, but
I don't know. I mean, I could see kind of that. I could also see kind of what you were talking about with the Thompson brothers.
yeah.
The game of basketball they were playing in that league was weird.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
there were some weird rules in that, and I'm like, what? It just I don't know how that translates. Obviously, the Thompson brothers, one has been better than the other, but they're still they've both had their highs and lows in the league. So it's, I mean, they're still, especially the guy on the Rockets.
I mean, there's NBA
which
prospects
one
in
he
high
is,
school
but
right
he's
now
really good.
that could come into the league and not dominate, but could
Like
play
Cooper
well.
Flag.
I think Cooper Flag can come in the league and average.
As a senior
13.
getting drafted in the NBA, I mean, what does an extra year of college necessarily do for him?
I mean, the hope is that a college coach
just builds your stock even more. But for a guy like him that was probably going to go number one in next year's class anyway, I guess that doesn't really.
The hope is that a college coach can round out his game and make him smarter, make him a smarter, player, and get him ready. Because high school to college to NBA are three totally different levels of basketball.
Well, yeah, that's why the basketball. If you want to know I would say high school and NBA are more comparison and similar than college.
College is a lot slower.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying these teams that kind of build these guys. And I think a good recruiter is a guy who's not necessarily even going out and signing these top guys. Is a guy who finds the diamonds in the rough. The guys who finds this little white guy who just could shoot it really well, and he comes in, and then in March Madness he just makes 10 threes. I mean, those type of guys, those diamond in the roughs, I think help make a recruiter better. And obviously, sometimes, at least in this day and age, has led the wins.
Yeah.
So
depends on the school. Sometimes.
I mean, we can come back to this after a team wins the Natty. I mean, we can go back and look at the research the last 10 years. I mean, obviously, 10 years ago, the NBA prospects were winning. Obviously, we saw. You look at it. Who's the Towns? Did he win? Did they lose in the championship?
I don't think Cat ever won a national championship.
Cat never won that. They lost to Wisconsin that year.
Yeah, obviously Frank the
Kaminsky
Tank was, but he was
Sam
not
Decker.
a one-year guy. So I don't think Sam Decker was either. So
Sam
I
Decker
mean, it does. My theory does make sense. That
it definitely makes sense. I agree with you in that factor.
It definitely leads to wins. I don't know about national championship wins. Is in the tournament wins. It usually doesn't always lead to wins. Regular season wins.
I mean, if you look at it now, I don't think there are any teams left in the tournament that have that number one guy in the country that's just going to be a 19-year-old one and done, except for maybe Jared McCain.
Jared McCain's not.
Well, right now there's kind of like a little gap of talent in college.
Yeah.
As of right now, yeah.
It seems like there's not like this incoming NBA draft. It seems like it's going to be probably the worst we've seen in probably a decade.
I saw a mock draft for Reed Shepherd is projected to go number one. He dropped 6 points in the March Madness game.
Yeah, 6 free wings. But I think 2013 was the last really bad draft. That was the Anthony Bennett year. I think it went
Anthony Bennett, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist,
Oladipo. So it went Bennett, Oladipo,
no, it was Okafor,
Kidd-Gilchrist, and then Zeller as the top four.
Alex Len.
And, I mean, obviously Oladipo had a stint in Indiana where he was good, but man, that draft sucked. I mean, Cody Zeller was a good starter for a few years in Charlotte, but he was never an NBA All-Star.
CJ McCollum was the best out that draft.
Yeah, probably.
I don't even know if he got drafted lottery.
He was drafted 10.
Yeah, 10 to Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just kind of an interesting time right now in the NBA. But whenever someone says Mike Woodson's been doing a good job, I have to say something about it because.
He sucks at coaching. I think every IU fan knows
recruiting.
That.
I mean, you're IU. I mean, you're like.
IU's not what it used to be, though.
Well, I agree, but when you think of college basketball, IU comes across your mind. I mean.
Now.
Just in general, when you think of men's college basketball. Like there's like
IU is one of those like top 3 programs of all time, but
obviously they haven't won since the 90s. I mean, they have 5.
They're just too iconic of a program.
I mean, yeah, they're iconic. They're
they have the greatest college coach of all time.
They have where they play is just insane. So they just have all that. So when you think of it, you think of them, but they just.
Oh, never mind. Giannis was in 2013. How lied.
Yeah, he was picked 15.
15. Yep.
I forgot about Giannis being in that draft, but he wasn't a lottery pick.
Giannis has been in the league for 11 years.
I remember him.
We're getting old.
I remember him on.
We are getting old.
Yeah.
There's NBA players now coming in who are younger than me, which just is a
Jared
feeling,
McCain's
to say
my
the
age.
least.
Yeah, Bronny's my age.
2005 kids coming in the league. It's just wild. But moving along now to the mock draft, NFL mock draft. This will be our NFL mock draft special. We're only going to be doing the top 15 picks, but we'll still get a little bit of a glimpse. So we have our simulators up. And since he's a Bears fan, we'll let Aidan start. Then Jalen, then I will pick 3. So that's how we're going to do it. So if Aidan wanted to, he could go ahead and pick Drake May, number 1. And we can't get mad because he gets to make the first pick. Aidan, go ahead.
Obviously, this probably a no-brainer for everyone. Obviously, the Chicago Bears are going to go with Bo Nix. No, I'm just kidding. It's Caleb Williams. No explanation needed on that. It'll be Caleb.
Yeah.
So for number 2, this is my personal opinion. I like Jaden Daniels a lot more than I like Drake May. And I think he fits what Washington wants to do. Plus, they've already drafted the UNC quarterback once.
So who you going with?
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels going number 2. Wow.
They've already drafted the UNC quarterback once. Don't do it again.
So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear for me here. Number 3, New England. They're a quarterback-needy team, and I think there's 2 options. I think you either look at Drake May, and then you take a look at J.J. McCarthy. And, well, I'm going to go Drake May. I think he's the better quarterback. I do think McCarthy's draft stock has risen since the combine and all that, but I still don't think he goes in the top 3.
For number 4 for the Cardinals, I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. You got to get wide receiver help for Kyler Murray. He's starting to get
nothing too crazy here.
nothing too crazy.
First
so far.
4.
So for number 5, I'm going with Brock Bowers. The Chargers have absolutely no offensive weapons now that everybody that they had last year, every weapon they had last year is gone. So they have to give somebody.
Top 10 is,
so they hopefully think
crazy.
that Brock Bowers can be the Travis Kelce to Justin Herbert.
So you're going to go get Brock Bowers over a guy like Malik Nabers,
Yep.
Rome Odunze?
Yep.
Man,
Interesting.
I don't know, but sure. All right, number 6, the Giants, obviously a team that is pretty bad. I mean, what do the Giants really need? Obviously,
Everything.
Yeah. I mean,
Tackle, wide receiver, quarterback.
This is kind of interesting. I mean, I think the Giants with a good receiver would do really good here. I could see them going 2 ways. I could see them going Joe Alt at a Notre Dame, obviously the best tackle in the draft by far. And then I could see them going receiver. So I'm going to say they take Malik Nabers, number 6.
I like it. For 7, it obviously looks like the Titans are planning to keep Will Levis as their starting quarterback. They just signed Calvin Ridley. Obviously, they already have DeAndre Hopkins. They signed a few pieces on defense, actually trading for L'Jarius Sneed just last week. They picked up Chidobe Awuzie. So they have their defense starting. Their defense is figured out, but I think you need to get Will Levis all the help he needs, and for that reason, I'm going to go with Joe Alt out of Notre Dame to get him that protection he needs to throw the ball to his receivers. Like we saw with Joe Burrow, obviously they went Jamar Chase over offensive line, and Joe Burrow tore his ACL his rookie year. So, yeah.
For the Falcons, I think their offense is pretty set. So I'm going to go with Byron Murphy, inside defensive line out of Texas, just to help out bolster that defensive line a little bit.
Yeah, now it brings me back to the Bears. They have 2 top 10 picks. I think this is their actual pick, pick 9. And I don't really know where to go here.
Now they traded for Keenan Allen. They don't
really
need
need
a
a
receiver.
receiver. And I don't really know if they necessarily need pass rush. I don't think they do.
They're very short on a second edge rusher besides Montez Sweat.
Really?
After Montez Sweat, yeah, they were because
Their defensive line is nothing.
Yannick
after
Ngakoue
Montez
sucks.
Sweat.
I mean, Yannick
Well,
Ngakoue's gone.
I'm going to go ahead and take Dallas Turner to go 9 to
That's
Chicago.
a very good pick. Okay, for the Jets, I mean, this is just such an interesting pick because they signed Mike Williams. They already have Garrett Wilson over there. I don't know. They have Alan Lazard, who's good for a wide receiver 3 at that point. I don't know if they need any more weapons for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he made the playoffs with Christian Watson as his wide receiver 1. I don't really know what they need. They solved a lot of problems in free agency with signing Moses Brown and who's the tackle from Dallas? Toronto? No, not he's very old. I forget his name, but so I don't really think they need any help on the offense. I think they could really use a guy on defense for that reason. I'm going to go with Jerzon Newton out of Illinois. It's a little bit of a reach, I would say, but if he pans out well, I think he can really help this defensive line alongside Quinnen Williams. You already have McDonald from last year's draft from Iowa State. So if they can get that defensive line patched up, it'll help out their secondary a lot this coming season.
And for the Vikings, I think their offense is obviously they need the quarterback, but I don't know if they want to select the quarterback right here. But at the end of the day, I think they do. But I think it's between two players. I think it's between J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix. I don't think Bo Nix is in that conversation.
Nah.
But just how fast J.J. McCarthy's flung up the draft mocks, I'm going to go ahead and select J.J. McCarthy. Do I think he's better than Michael Penix? No. But, hey, the NFL scouts have to know something that we don't because he's been flying up the boards recently.
All right, so now we're on the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos are a team that's had kind of a little bit of a shakeup. And I got a question for you guys. Do you think Denver here goes quarterback? Because obviously they don't necessarily have one really on the roster.
No.
So is there any quarterbacks even left?
Penix.
Penix
Where's
is
he
really
at?
the
Penix
big
and Nix.
one.
He's ranked pretty well. He's ranked like 46
Wow.
in all of them. So
He is.
out of all the players,
It's tough for the Broncos.
It is tough for the
I don't
Broncos.
think you go Penix here. I think,
No,
honestly, the Broncos kind of need a receiver.
I agree.
yeah, because Judy's gone.
Judy's gone.
Who's going to throw him the ball? I don't know, but
I'm gonna say Denver takes Roman Odunze.
I like that.
I think him going there to be with probably, I would say, a rookie quarterback next season. I don't think they're going to be that good this year.
No.
I could definitely see it.
So you taking Rome?
For the Raiders, this is a tough one because it's a team that also needs a lot. This is hard. I'm gonna go with Fashanu out of Penn State. They won't. I don't think they will get a quarterback this year. I think they'll just write it out with McConnell and then draft one next year. Obviously, there is a situation where Penix could fall to the second round where they could select him there, and that would also be probably the best situation possible. But I think you have to patch up this offensive line. This offensive line doesn't really have any stability, and they haven't had any stability really since Derek Carr was there in that prime Derek Carr phase, where they beat the Chargers to go to the playoffs in that whole timeout tie game situation.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Fashanu there. I feel like he's a great fit for the Raiders offense.
And for the Saints, I think that they're going to ride it out with Derek Carr for another at least 2 years. I don't know how much time he's left on his contract.
I think he has 3 years left.
Does he
but
really?
No way he plays 3 more years. I mean, he was kind of bad.
Well, I don't think this is the year they're going to draft a quarterback. So I think that they go and try and get a guy to help out Chris Olave, get him off the double teams. I think they go get a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. I think he'll really turn out, especially with someone like Derek Carr throwing him the ball. Derek Carr's not washed, not yet. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting. So who did you guys 2 pick?
So I picked Fashanu, and
I picked Brian Thomas Jr.
I like that pick. Ryan Thomas Jr. is solid. So now we have my team.
the last pick of our draft.
The last pick of the draft is the Indianapolis Colts, a team that, well, they have some needs.
Be smart here.
They do. I want to be smart here, but you took my pick.
Oh, you want to take Brian Thomas? I do like Brian Thomas to the Colts. I can't lie. It would suck if someone else took him.
Man, I don't know. Because there's not, I would say that a receiver or tight end here, an offensive threat, would be really good. Like, really good. But they also don't really have any defense. They lack secondary a lot. And, well, since you kind of took every super good receiver, I'm going to go ahead and take Cooper DeJean or whatever.
DeJean.
The Iowa cornerback. I've been kind of watching him a little bit. He's solid. He's fast. And, the Colts secondary is really bad, as we saw last season. Obviously, they're going to have a little bit of corner help since they got some players coming back from injury. But I definitely think if a really good receiver or Brock Bowers is not there at 15 for the Colts, you have to go secondary.
I like
Either
Quinyon
safety
Mitchell a
or
little bit more.
cornerback. Yeah.
Is he from a MAC school? Yeah. Does that really matter? Maybe. But I like Quinyon Mitchell a little bit more than I like Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
And it's not because Cooper DeJean's white. But is there any white DBs in the league still other than Reed Blankenship? Is that the only one?
Well, he's not a corner. He's a safety.
Secondary just in general.
I've seen a lot of things that Cooper DeJean is actually like a really good athlete. He ran like track in high school and he played basketball. He was like a 4-sport athlete in high school.
The thing with him is, even though he's listed as a corner, he
Plays
has
safety.
lined up at safety.
Yeah. He also played a lot of kick return punt return.
And that's something, well, the Colts need. They need a kick returner
Yeah.
and a punt returner that won't scare me every time they have the ball. And then they need secondary help. And, I mean, if he can do everything, then there you go, So
That's true.
that's it. But that will be it for our mock draft special. Of course, when the time comes a little closer, we might go ahead and redo this mock draft.
Probably.
And maybe go the full first round.
Yeah.
But I guess you'll have to tune in then and see. But now let's move along now to our last segment of the day. And, well, we have a special guest who will be joining us for this special edition of NFL Start Bench Cut Draft Combine / Draft Edition. And, well, we'll let the special guest introduce himself.
Hey, I'm Dylan Kindig. You never heard from me before, but that's okay.
Make sure to get a little closer to the mic.
We good?
All
We
right,
good now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Here, just put that mic in the middle so you guys can share.
Right.
Yeah, sorry for the noises. Just slid in here so you guys have the same mic.
First time doing a 4-person
Yeah, first time. So
foursome.
of course, got a special guest here, and then let's have the rules of start bench cut. There's the rules. So obviously you start the best player. You think you bench the second best player, and then you might cut the third. I'm not sure how the rules work. I forgot. But so now we're gonna have kind of a college football. We have a few here. We're gonna start with receivers in this draft. So how it's going to go is I'm going to name 3 guys who are in this draft as receivers, and you have to start, bench, or cut them. So here we go. Start, bench, cut, NCAA Football Edition. Odunze, Malik Nabers, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Jalen, I will allow you to start.
Okay, so first of all, I think this is everybody's consensus number 1. Marvin Harrison Jr., number 1.
Yeah.
Marvin,
I'm going to go with it. I'm joking.
This is where it gets tricky, but I think I'm still going to take Rome number 2. He was the consensus number 2 for a long time.
He was.
Malik Nabers has had a great pro day. He had a great combine.
What, he had like a 42-inch vertical?
Maybe.
Something crazy like that?
But I still think Rome is one of those guys that will change a franchise when he gets drafted. So I'm going to bench Rome and then cut Malik Nabers.
Yeah, that's pretty valid. You can go ahead, Dylan.
It's really hard to say for me. But yeah, I mean, Marvin Harrison, unanimous starter. It's hard to say, though, just because you can't use the quarterback situation as, like, a determining factor just because, like, oh, yeah, Jaden Daniels won the Heisman, but who is right behind him? Oh, yeah, Michael Penix. You know, it's really hard to say there. But considering success in their career, especially last year, I think I got to go with Odunze. I couldn't even give you a reason why. I just feel like he played better clutch last year, making it through the playoffs. I get it, the national championship didn't go as he wanted.
But hey, they got there.
But he got there, won the Pac-12.
And that's pretty big.
Did what he had to do as wide receiver 1. I mean, that's my guy.
And then cut Malik Nabers.
Yes.
I'm going to go with a different approach of you guys. Obviously, starting Marvin Harrison Jr. He's probably the greatest wide receiver prospect of all time, potentially. He just has a mix of every good aspect you'd want out of a wide receiver. I'm going to bench Malik Nabers. I feel like Malik Nabers is more of a raw, explosive athlete than Odunze is. No hate towards Odunze or anything. I don't think he's going to be a bust or anything. These are all 3 great wide receivers, and they're all going to turn out well. But just for as an all-around prospect, I'd say Nabers is probably a little bit better than Odunze. Yes, Odunze does have the size, but I feel like Nabers' upside with his speed, his catching ability, his route running is a lot better than Odunze's. I'm just going to have to go with Nabers sitting or benching, and then I'm going to cut Rome Odunze.
Yeah, well, I want to be a little different. I'm going to start I'm joking. I'm going to start Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously one of the best receiver prospects we've ever seen coming out of college. Obviously the son of Marvin Harrison.
Shout out to Colts.
Colts legend. And then bench and cut is hard because you look at it, like you said, Dylan, Rome had a better college career. Okay, he did. But when it comes to the receiver, and I'm just kind of looking at who they are right now, because these guys aren't in the league. We don't have to look at their NFL careers. I'm looking at them right now. If I was an NFL GM drafting a receiver with the first overall pick, I'm honestly right now taking Malik Nabers over Rome Odunze, and it's just kind of how it is. Obviously, it could be recency bias because he's hot right now with the combine stuff, had a really good combine. His pro day was good. But it's just Malik Nabers, to me, I think will be a better receiver when it all turns out, then Rome Odunze. And maybe I'm wrong, but to me, I'm going to say start Marvin Harrison Jr., bench Malik Nabers, then cut Rome Odunze. But now let's move along to kind of another version of this. Here we have 3 quarterbacks who we're looking at solely off before the NFL. So 3 quarterbacks who pre-NFL rank them out of 3. Start, bench, cut. Let's get going. NCAA start, bench, cut. College football edition. Here we go. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones.
Okay, obviously, the number one consensus should be Mac Jones since he did win a national championship. Was he the best player on that team that won the national championship? No. But, probably not. But at the end of the day, he was the one throwing the passes like when it came down to it. So I'm going to take Mac Jones, number 1, to start. Bench and cut against Zach Wilson and Trey Lance is both weird because they both really didn't do anything kind of like winning.
Mm-hmm.
They both had good stats, but they both didn't really win. I don't even think either of them won their conference. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. But I'm going to bench Zach Wilson purely off of the pro day throw, purely off of that one-legged, off the back shoulder throw that he did on his pro day, and I'm cutting Trey Lance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, that throw by Zach Wilson was
That's why I'm saying, hey, I would have taken a number 2 too if I was 3? 3.
He was taking number
Was he
3.
2 or 3?
I think he was 3, right?
He was 2 to New York, I think.
I think he might have been 2 to New York, and then Trey Lance was 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would have taken him at number 2 as well if I saw that throw, if I'm a GM.
Really?
Yeah, I probably would have been bamboozled.
I mean, he's pretty. He gets the girls.
I mean, he
has
does.
the
He gets
straight teeth.
and the moms. Don't forget the moms. Don't forget the MILF scandal.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We heard about it. I mean, he does that, but, man, he's not good. He had all the swag, though, in college.
He was like Baker
But I'm going to
Mayfield.
go ahead and go start bench cut. I'm going to say start Mac Jones. Obviously, they probably actually had a good college career. Obviously played in Alabama. Did he win a natty?
He did win a natty. Yes, he did.
Did he win more than one natty?
I think he went to more than one, didn't he?
He was a
Or was he?
backup.
He might have been the backup.
I think he was a backup.
Yeah, I think
He was
so.
like a third stringer whenever they had Tua and Jalen Hurts. And then benching and cut is kind of interesting. I'm going to say bench Zach Wilson because he had a decent college career. I mean, obviously BYU wasn't that good, but they weren't bad. And then Trey Lance really did nothing and then just appeared right before the draft. I didn't know him. I didn't know who Trey Lance was. And then I just look at my mock draft 3.0 and see him going number 3 to San Fran or number 2 to New York. Mac Jones was also in that San Fran convo, and they didn't end up going to him. But I'm going to say, yeah, start Mac Jones, bench Zach Wilson, and then cut Trey Lance.
This one, Mac Jones is starting for me, obviously, but it's harder for me to pick the bench and cut just because I remember that his senior year, Trey Lance, when he was at North Dakota State, I just got bored one day and I started watching one of their games. It was on like ESPN3 or something. And this dude, I get it, lower level competition, but this dude was shredding defenses. I think they were playing like Montana State or something. But this dude probably had 350 yards and 4 touchdowns that day. It was nuts. And it's not like these guys are bad. I mean, yeah, it's FCS, but it's still D1 football. I mean, these guys still know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're still good coaches with good schemes. But it's just, I don't know. Just seeing Trey Lance that day and seeing the hype after that, I gotta bench Trey Lance and then cut Zach Wilson. Also because gotta keep my mom safe. So,
Hey, that's valid. That's a valid point.
but yeah, I'm benching Lance and cutting Wilson.
I'm going to go ahead and go the same route. I think we're forgetting how good Trey Lance was in college. I mean, yeah, he was playing against South Dakota State, but
I just
at
never
North
tuned into ESPN3. Maybe that was my bad.
but North Dakota State, he did lead North Dakota State to the FCS championship game, where I think they won. So, I mean, he handled business where he was playing at. Obviously, this isn't like the SECs, the ACCs of the world, but, I mean, he was a winner in college. Obviously, I think he had a better skill set than Zach Wilson, able to escape the pocket a little bit better. For that reason, I'm going to start Mac Jones, sit Trey Lance, and then I'm cutting Zach Wilson.
Hey, look at Zach Wilson's last year at BYU's highlight reel. Swaggiest man I've ever seen. Moving along now. NCAA start bench cut college football edition. Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, and Kyler Murray.
So these are all like quarterbacks that was,
number one overall.
number one
picks.
overall, unanimous number one overall,
They all
Heisman winners.
did amazing in college
won
football. You got to
championships.
pick a start bench cut.
Ooh. For this, I'm going to start Trevor Lawrence. As good of a season Joe Burrow had his senior year, I think the things that Trevor Lawrence did with that Clemson squad was unbelievable. I mean, he was really the quarterback. I mean, obviously Dabo Swinney leading up to that Trevor Lawrence recruitment was good. He was a good coach, but whenever you enter as a head coach of a program like that, it takes years to build up a good program, as we saw with Harbaugh in Michigan. So Trevor Lawrence was really his golden boy, and he did what he was supposed to do. He went in for that reason, being that first generational quarterback that Clemson's basically ever had. I'm gonna say start Trevor Lawrence. I'm gonna bench Joe Burrow. I mean, we cannot just cut Joe Burrow, just degrading his season he had in 2019. Was he passing to future NFL Pro Bowlers? Yeah, but he knew the scheme. He was still throwing absolute dimes. I mean, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase wouldn't have the seasons they had without Joe Burrow. So for that reason, I'm going to bench Joe Burrow, and then I'm going to cut Kyler Murray. Again, Kyler Murray, obviously he was a Heisman winner. He was one of those prototype Oklahoma quarterbacks. I just don't think he was highly anticipated coming out of college than Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence were. So in conclusion, I'm starting Lawrence, benching Burrow, and then cutting Kyler Murray.
For me, I'm gonna go a little different than what Aidan did. I'm gonna go Joe Burrow start. I think Joe Burrow's season at LSU, obviously he had, like Aidan said, future Pro Bowlers that he was throwing the ball to. But that season was magical. The Burrow where he had like the AUX, where he was like running out the tunnel, that's one of the greatest hype videos I've ever seen in my life.
That video's insane.
That video is insane. The Burrow hype train from that college season leading up to the NFL draft was crazy. I don't know who had more hype coming out, Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow. It was kind of neck and neck who had more hype. But I'm going to take Joe Burrow. Bench Trevor Lawrence. He still won a national championship. He was still one of the greatest quarterbacks in college football history. That season was magical. And then cut Kyler Murray. He won a Heisman, but other than that, he didn't really do much other winning.
I think I'm going to have to also start Joe Burrow, just because not only was he the best quarterback that year, he was the best quarterback in SEC history for a whole season. I mean, he led the conference. What records did he break? Like
60
yards,
passing touchdowns, by the way.
like yards, touchdowns,
56.
and completions out of SEC quarterbacks in a season or something. In the hardest conference in football, and no one just does that.
No.
I gotta go Joe Burrow. Plus the cigar is sick after the Natty.
Dude, that was
I mean,
insane.
imagine if he wins a Super Bowl.
Oh,
Joe
That's gonna
Burrow
be
has
nuts.
insane swag.
Next, I'm gonna have to go Trevor Lawrence. Sorry, Kyler. I've always liked Kyler, but man, I gotta go Trevor Lawrence. Here's your LeBron stat for Trevor Lawrence. I saw something a few years ago. I think he lost like 2 total games between his freshman year of high school and his senior year of college.
Well, like Kyler Murray, I believe only lost like 1. Like as a starting
Kyler Murray
quarterback.
also didn't get a national championship.
Yeah. I mean, that was his one loss in that run, I think. Or something. I don't know. I was reading. I know he didn't lose. Like, he's never lost in Texas or something.
he's never lost in Texas, yeah.
I don't know. He's undefeated somewhere.
But just going in, I got to go Trevor Lawrence. It was a different system, I feel, as well, because it's not a quarterback factor. Like, I know Deshaun Watson, a lot of people think of him coming out of Clemson. I'm like, oh, Clemson, their quarterbacks are great.
Quarterback
I think of Oklahoma first before I think of Clemson and quarterback factors.
Yeah.
So I got to go Lawrence. What I felt was winning more, winning better, and just an unusual place for a quarterback that good to come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, start bench cut here. This is hard. To me, it's a one-way race for the start between Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. Because Joe Burrow, I would say the peak of Joe Burrow in college football is the best college football player you've ever seen. 60 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions with 5,600 passing yards, averaging almost 11 yards per attempt. That's a first down per pass. That's insane. We've never seen it before, at least to this extent. I mean, he's breaking all the records. I mean, as you guys said, he had the cigar in, won the Natty. I mean, everything you needed to do that season, he did. But look before that, well, he played 13 games besides not 15 and had 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Obviously, that last year of his was insane. Then you look at Trevor Lawrence, and, well, he played all 3 years as the starter. Played 15 games in his first and second year. Obviously, in 2020, only played 10 because, but, I mean, he played longer, which is why that I'm iffy, because Lawrence was a consistent guy who was probably a top 3 quarterback in college football for 3 straight years. And, well, you look at Joe Burrow, and he only had 1 year elite. And, I mean, he only played 2 really years. Trevor Lawrence played 3 as a starter in Clemson and won every single year, at least in some extent. I think, well, they make the playoffs, I would assume, all 3 years. So, and he has 1 natty, right?
Yeah, just 1.
1. And he lost 1, too.
Did he lose 1?
Did he lose to Ohio State?
He won 1 and then lost to Ohio State in the.
Yeah.
I actually think it was the national championship, or
Yeah.
maybe it was the semifinal. All I know is that Justin Fields threw 6 touchdowns in that game and won. That's all I know about it. That's all I know about it.
So I'm gonna say here, I'm gonna go start Joe Burrow because his peak is probably the best peak we've ever seen. If it was for a whole career, obviously Lawrence is gonna get the start. I'm gonna say bench Trevor Lawrence. Just even though his NFL career kind of hasn't panned out to what it should have been. I mean, people are talking like this guy was the goddess of the world coming into this league and how many playoff wins. But so just interesting. But I'm gonna say bench Trevor Lawrence. I'm gonna say cut Kyler Murray. And I didn't talk about him at all, but Kyler Murray, in his last year in Oklahoma as a junior, 4,300 yards passing, 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions is great. But before that, he didn't do anything. I mean, the year prior, his sophomore year at Oklahoma, so he started 7 games, played 7 games, had under 400 yards passing and 3 touchdowns to no picks. And then, obviously, his freshman year in Texas A&M, we don't even talk about it. Had more interceptions than touchdowns. So, but just Kyler Murray was never had that hype of a Joe Burrow or Trevor Lawrence. Very good quarterback, number 1 pick in the draft, and has had a decent NFL career. But just he never had that hype of a Lawrence or a Burrow, and I don't think anyone's had the hype at the peak of Burrow since probably Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning. I mean, I would say Burrow is in that category after that phenomenal season. So I'm going to say start Joe Burrow, bench Trevor Lawrence, and then cut Kyler Murray. But that's all for today's episode. Of course, it's been fun. We'd like to thank our special guest, Dylan, for joining us. I'm here for the final edition, the final segment here, but it's been fun. About an hour. Hey, we're doing good in time management, at least, even with that big rant in the middle. So look at that. We're doing it all. But, of course, it's been fun. Follow us on all social medias, Roll the Tape Sports. Hey, we're almost to 100 followers on TikTok. Maybe we'll, do a special. I'm joking. We'll do something.
I'll buy a cake.
Sure. We'll have a cake. Will you guys get to enjoy it with us? No. But, hey, we'll have a cake. Make sure to go follow us there. We post stuff every day on TikTok and Instagram. Obviously, every Thursday, new pod. Next week, we'll be back here. Same thing, same time, same place. Yeah. But as always, it's been fun, and until next time.
Yes, sir.